All right, welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. You know we love to dig into the most interesting sports stories, and today, well, we're tackling the Jimmy Butler trade.
Oh yeah, this is a big one.
Huge. We've got articles from ESPN, Bleacher Report, The Athletic, you name it.
Seems like everyone has something to say about this.
For sure, and the headlines are crazy. Miami meltdown, Butler gets his wish, Warriors all in, and honestly, this story, it's about so much more than just basketball.
Absolutely.
It's about ambition, personalities clashing, and the power dynamics in pro sports, you know.
Right. You've got Jimmy Butler forcing his way out, Miami and their famous heat culture, and then the Warriors taking a huge swing. It's fascinating.
It really is. So first things first, let's make sure everyone's on the same page with the actual trade. Jimmy Butler is heading to Golden State. The Heat are getting Andrew Wiggins.
Yep.
And Kyle Anderson and P.J. Tucker. The Warriors are also sending a future first-round pick to Miami. A couple of other teams, Utah and Detroit, were involved, but really, this is the Butler and Wiggins show.
Definitely. And we can't forget the other big piece. Butler's new contract. He agreed to a 2-year, $121 million extension with the Warriors.
Whoa, yeah, that's a lot of money.
It is. But this kind of bold move, it's not exactly new for Butler. He's got a history, right?
Oh, yeah, his departures haven't exactly been smooth. Chicago, Minnesota, a quick stop in Philly, then Miami in 2019. And every time there seems to be, well, some tension, let's say.
Yeah, you could say that. Butler's super competitive, wants to win at all costs. But sometimes that leads to conflicts, with coaches, front office, the whole structure.
So the question is, will that pattern repeat itself in Golden State?
That's the million-dollar question.
All right, so let's get into the Miami situation. The articles paint a picture of a total implosion. Suspensions, contract disputes, weird comments from everyone. What actually happened?
Well, it's complicated. For starters, you have the money issue. Butler wanted a huge extension, but the Heat didn't seem too keen on giving it to him, especially with his injury history.
Right, one article mentioned he missed like 25% of the Heat's games while he was there.
Exactly. And for a team built on consistency in their system, that's a problem. Then you add in the reported clashes with the coaches, the front office, and Butler saying publicly he wasn't happy in Miami.
Yeah, I remember reading about that. 3 suspensions in January alone. One was for walking out of a shoot-around because he wasn't starting.
Yeah.
Seemed like he was done with the Heat.
It really did. And that's where this Heat culture versus star power thing gets interesting. The Heat are all about team first, hard work, discipline. Everyone has a role.
A well-oiled machine.
Exactly. But then you have a guy like Butler, so talented, so driven. Maybe he felt too restricted, like trying to contain a force of nature.
So were the Heat trying to balance their system with the demands of a superstar, and it just didn't work?
Basically, yeah. And under Pat Riley, they've always prioritized their system over any individual player. It's part of their identity.
Speaking of Riley, didn't he make a comment about player empowerment last season? Something like, players shouldn't have the power to hold an organization hostage.
He did. And if we connect that to this trade, it seems like he was sending a message, maybe to Butler, maybe in general. He wasn't going to compromise the Heat's culture, not even for a star.
A bold stance in today's NBA.
For sure.
Okay, let's shift to the Warriors. They already have Curry, Green, 2 future Hall of Famers with rings. Why bring in Butler? What's their plan?
I think they're in win-now mode. Curry's 37, the championship window's closing. They see Butler as the missing piece to get them back on top. But it's a risky move.
Hold on, risky how? We just talked about Butler's history. Can he really mesh with Curry and Green? What about the team chemistry they've built?
Those are valid concerns. Bringing in a guy like Butler could disrupt that balance. But the Warriors are betting his talent and competitiveness are worth the risk. Remember, they missed the playoffs last year. They're hungry.
But isn't their system all about ball movement, sharing? Can a player like Butler, who likes to have the ball in his hands, fit in? Will this lead to another banner, or will it blow up in their faces?
Well, that's what makes it so interesting, right? We'll have to wait and see.
Okay, let's talk about Andrew Wiggins for a second. Former #1 pick, loads of potential, never quite reached it in Minnesota, found some success with the Warriors, but now he's on the move again. Where does he fit in with all this?
Wiggins is a bit of a mystery. Talented scorer, decent defender, but he's been inconsistent. Maybe lacking that killer instinct. The Heat are hoping a change of scenery, a new system, will unlock his potential. Maybe this is the push he needs.
That's the hope. But his time in Minnesota doesn't exactly inspire confidence. What makes the Heat think he can turn things around?
We'll have to see. But they do have a knack for developing players, maximizing their potential. Maybe they see something in Wiggins that others haven't.
So both the Warriors and the Heat are taking big risks with this trade. The Warriors betting on Butler's talent and experience to get them another championship, while the Heat are hoping Wiggins can finally become that star everyone thought he'd be. It's like a chess match, both sides making bold moves.
It really is. And that's what makes it so compelling. It's not just about who won the trade right now. It's about the ripple effects that'll play out over the next few seasons. It's about the vision of both teams and how this one move could reshape the entire NBA.
And we can't ignore the financial side of this either. Butler's new contract is massive. It affects both teams' salary caps. This isn't just basketball. It's about business decisions and navigating that whole complex NBA financial system.
Absolutely. And this is where it gets really interesting. The new CBA makes it even harder to build super teams. Butler's contract will likely push the Warriors over that $172 million tax threshold, costing owner Joe Lacob another $50 million in penalties.
Wow, that's a lot of money, even for a team with championship dreams.
It is. So the question is a championship worth that financial hit? And what moves will they have to make next season to stay under the cap?
The Heat, on the other hand, they got some breathing room by trading Butler.
Right. They have space now maybe to go after a big-time free agent this offseason or make another trade. They could target players who fit well with their young core, Tyler Herro, Bam Adebayo. They've opened up a lot of possibilities.
So we've got two teams, two totally different approaches, and a whole lot of uncertainty. This could be a turning point for both franchises. So we've talked about the money, the salary caps, all that.
Yeah.
But let's not forget, there are actual players involved in this, right?
Yeah.
For Miami, losing Butler, the guy who took them to 2 finals, that's got to hurt. What does this mean for them going forward?
Yeah, in the short term, it's a step back, no question. They're losing a guy who can score, a leader on defense, someone who steps up in big moments.
But couldn't you argue that getting rid of that huge contract is good for them long term?
Oh, absolutely. It gives them more options to build around Herro and Adebayo. They can kind of reshape the team now.
And they did get some good players back, right? Wiggins, he's been up and down, but he's got talent. Anderson can do a bit of everything. And then there's P.J. Tucker, tough veteran, knows how to win.
Yeah, the Heat are definitely hoping this trade, even though it hurts now, lets them reload, stay competitive in the East. It's a bet on potential and a commitment to their system.
It's still risky, though, isn't it? They're basically saying Wiggins and these young guys are going to become stars and carry the team.
There's always risk in any trade. But remember, Heat culture. It's not just a saying. They develop players. They build a winning mentality. Look at Duncan Robinson, Max Strus, undrafted guys who became key pieces.
That's true. They do find those diamonds in the rough. Okay, what about the Warriors then? What does this mean for their championship hopes right now?
Well, on paper, they just added another all-star to a team that already has Curry and Green. That's a pretty scary trio. And don't forget about Klay Thompson coming back.
So they're right back in the championship conversation.
It's hard to say they aren't. Butler brings that intensity, that defense. He can take over games, take some pressure off Curry and Green, especially in the playoffs.
But you don't just plug a guy like Butler in and expect it to work perfectly. There are those worries about his personality, clashing with teammates and coaches. Can he really work with Curry and Green, who are also strong personalities? How do you see that playing out?
That's the big unknown. The Warriors are gambling that Butler wants a championship so bad that he'll put any potential conflicts aside. He's at that point in his career where legacy matters, you know?
So you think Curry and Green, they're such fierce competitors, they'll be okay with Butler's intensity if it means getting closer to another ring?
It's possible. And if they can find that balance, if those personalities mesh, the rest of the league better watch out. Imagine that starting 5. Curry, Thompson, Butler, Green, Looney. That's a team that can beat anyone.
It's exciting to think about, no doubt.
Yeah.
But chemistry is so important in basketball, and who knows how this new-look Warriors team is going to gel.
It'll be a fascinating experiment. And that's what makes this trade so captivating. It could be a huge success, or it could blow up in their faces.
We've talked about the Heat, the Warriors, but what does this trade tell us about the NBA overall? Is this a sign of things to come?
I think it shows some big trends that are changing the league. First, it's about the power of players. Guys like Butler have more control than ever. They're not afraid to demand trades, speak their minds, control their own destiny.
It's a far cry from the old days when players had to just do what their team told them, right?
Definitely. And this shift in power has made the league more dynamic, more unpredictable. Teams have to be really careful about how they manage their stars. They got to be adaptable, make tough decisions when things aren't working, and understand that keeping players happy is a big part of building a winning team.
And this trade also shows how important it is to have financial flexibility in the NBA. The Heat got some breathing room by trading Butler, while the Warriors are staring down a giant luxury tax bill. It's a constant balancing act.
That new CBA makes it tough to build a contender and stay under the salary cap. Teams need to get creative, take risks, and think about the long-term financial impact of their moves. It's like a whole other game on top of the basketball one.
In this case, the move was a blockbuster trade that has everyone talking. And this is just the beginning of the story. We'll have to see how it all plays out for both teams and for the league as a whole over the next few years. But for now, let's dig a little deeper into the human side of this story. Let's talk about the clash of personalities, the different philosophies that led to this dramatic trade. Okay, so we've looked at the trade itself, what it means for both teams, the whole financial side of things. But this is the deep dive, right? We like to go deeper.
Always.
This isn't just about numbers and stats. It's a story about personalities, about different ways of thinking, maybe even a little bit of ego.
Absolutely. At the center of it all is Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, he's a guy who, well, he gets people talking.
He's intense, he's demanding, he wants to win, some might say, at all costs.
Some people call him a diva, others call him, the ultimate competitor.
He's not afraid to make waves.
No, he's not. He's known for working hard, like almost too hard, and wanting to win so badly.
Yeah.
And he's not afraid to challenge authority, whether it's coaches or the front office.
And then you have the Heat, a franchise that's all about Heat culture.
Right? It's like their motto.
Selflessness, discipline, that team-first mentality, that's what they're known for.
It's like these two forces were on a collision course.
It really is fascinating. Was this just Butler's personality clashing with that rigid Heat culture?
Or was it more about the contract, the Heat, not wanting to commit to Butler long-term because of his injuries?
It seems like it was a mix of things. The money was definitely a big part of it, but there were those stories about Butler having problems with coaches, with teammates.
Right, and let's not forget what Pat Riley said about players having too much power. Seems pretty relevant now.
Yeah, it does.
It's like Riley knew this was coming. He knew a guy like Butler, who wants to be in control, who's not afraid to speak his mind, might not fit in with how the Heat do things.
Look at where Butler has been most successful. In Chicago, he was the main guy. In Philly, he shared the leadership with Embiid. And in Miami, he was definitely the leader. He seems to do best when he's got freedom, when he is given responsibility.
So maybe he needs to be the man to really reach his potential.
Maybe. And now he's going to the Warriors, a team with two other strong leaders in Curry and Green. How those personalities work together, that's going to be interesting to watch.
The Warriors have been good at adding stars before. Durant fit right in, helped them win 2 titles. But Durant's more laid back. Butler's a lot more vocal, more demanding.
That's a key difference. And remember, Butler's had some, let's say, dramatic exits from teams in the past.
So the big question is, can he adapt to the Warriors' way of doing things? Can he coexist with Curry and Green? Or are we going to see another one of those dramatic exits down the road?
It's a risk for both sides. The Warriors are betting that Butler's hunger for another ring will be enough to smooth things over. And for Butler, this is probably his best chance to win another championship.
So maybe, just maybe, this is where he finds that perfect balance. Where he can be a star, but also be part of a winning team.
Or maybe this is just another chapter in the story of Jimmy Butler, the NBA's most unpredictable star. Only time will tell.
That's what makes the NBA so great, right?
Yeah.
There's always something happening. And for you, our listeners, here's something to think about. Knowing what we know about Jimmy Butler, is Golden State the last stop on his journey? Or will we see him demanding a trade again in a couple years?
It's a question that'll keep everyone guessing. But one thing's for sure, this trade has shaken things up in the NBA.
We've covered everything about this trade, from the details to the impact on both teams to the clash of personalities. This wasn't just about one trade, though. It shows us how the NBA is changing, how players have more power now, how team culture matters, and how everyone's chasing that championship.
These are the things that shape not just basketball, but all pro sports, really. So keep those things in mind as you watch the rest of the season. Because one thing's for sure, there's always going to be change in the NBA, and the next big trade could be right around the corner.